Welcome to the Robotics Through Science Fiction podcast. I'm Robin Murphy, and in this episode, I will review a recent book, The Prey of Gods by Nicky Drayden. It's got a great story, and while not particularly accurate about robots, it does touch upon service bots, human-robot interaction, software architecture, and especially emotions in robots. So, it's a book about viral infections, genetic engineering, robots, and gender bending. Sounds like autonomous, right? Well, what if I told you it was also about South African gods and their descendants in Cape Town? Now it sounds like American gods or Nancy boys. Except it isn't. It isn't Newlitz or Gaiman. It's Nicky Drayden in her fun romp, The Prey of Gods. In a near future, everyone except the absolute poorest person has a personal assistant robot. A 1-meter-high, multi-legged robot that functions as a smartphone, laptop computer, and backpack. The cheapest versions are the durable alphas. Like Minions and Despicable Me, the mono-camera alphas just want to do a good job for their master. Of course, teenage boys, being teenage boys, may either be too sentimental about their bot or a bit rough and demanding, either of which turns out could impact saving the world. One of the many points of view juggled in The Prey of Gods is that of Alpha Clever 4-1. Clever 4-1 is the classic sidekick. It's loyal to a fault, highly ethical, and contributes humor and pathos to many storylines. Clever 4-1 isn't the first loyal sidekick robot. That honor goes to Robbie the Robot in Forbidden Planet, 1956. And we've certainly seen realistic robots who bonded with their master, Teddy and AI Artificial Intelligence, and Robot and Frank. While Clever 4-1 is the loyal sidekick, Clever 4-1-1 is the hell hath no fury like a robot scorned robot. It's an antagonist of Clever 4-1's protagonist. So would a robot keep score and hold grudges? Well, it is plausible. One approach to building intelligent robots that's been explored since the 1980s is to embed emotions to the basic software architecture. You can see about my software architectures in my review of Sea of Rust. Emotions in biological systems are simple mechanisms that regulate control without having to think about it. More technically, allows you to react versus deliberate. If a behavior isn't working or achieving its goals, it generates what we'd call frustration or negative valence. As the frustration builds, the animal generally tries the same thing harder. So it might be adjusting the gains and the parameters on that behavioral subroutine and other behaviors like growling at nearby relatives who could be distracting it. Now note that this so far hasn't required anything that we would call reasoning, just reacting to stimulus, which is why emotions are so hard for us to control. They really are primal. If the frustration continues, the animal may abort the unsuccessful behavior and try something else, an alternative or redundant behavior. This requires a very low level of deliberation, usually just the implementation or scheduling function. If the alternative doesn't work, then the animal either has to abandon the goal, like it times out, or has to reason about what to do. So in summary, emotions aren't something that can be successfully added to a robot at the very end as part of that interactive layer wraparound in order to have it fake it being more socially responsive. Okay, that explains about emotions, but what about grudges? If a robot's programmed to associate success or failure with reaching goals, executing behaviors, and any of those parameters of the behaviors to reach that goal, it may learn that the behavior doesn't work well, let's say in the presence of X or in location L. So X and L are now something to be avoided, and they begin to have a negative semantic association. The robot could appear to be scared of areas of the office that have large glass walls, because over time it's learned that the glass interferes with correct interpretation of its sensors. Or, more likely, that it just doesn't work as well in that situation without generating a reason. That would be the purview of an advanced deliberative set of capabilities called fault detection, identification, recovery. So it's extremely possible that a robot could prefer certain people and avoid others, just how people prefer some books to others. If you feel you read one too many books with multiple points of views and threads that seem disconnected but will probably converge, then you probably won't like The Prey of Gods, and you'd be better off reading a more linearly plotted book. If you like imaginative genre mashups, then Prey of Gods is for you. And by the way, the Audible version is spectacular, with the narrator capturing the different accents of the characters and even providing a non-annoying robot voice. My recommendation? Take a break from reading dark, ponderous sci-fi and enjoy a sci-fi fantasy hybrid that has as many memorable characters and funny scenes as Avengers Infinity War. And a final piece of advice. Regardless of whether you read The Prey of Gods or not, be nice to your robot sidekick.